seconds into the game. So obviously, Harry, they had words, and now they go to work.
Now to Hall breaking him all along. He shoots, he scores! Brett Hall ties it at 2.
Oh, baby, Kelly Chase, does he give it, and they love it.
Into the hot zone to Hall. Shoots, he scores! Brett Hall!
Going to practice, going to games together, to believe there could be any more fire than he already had would be, it would be something extraordinary, to say the least, that if he was able to put more fire into the game, because it wasn't just on the ice. You know, he'd be the first guy to slap me upside the head if he didn't think I was playing good. Not so much good, but you know, maybe, hey, get your head in the game a little more.
Yeah.
And we're best friends and still are, but he was not afraid to slap me around to show the other guys in the room, like, hey, let's go.
And that's it's interesting you speak to that, Brett, because don't you think I've heard stories from the enforcers at times, and people are like, well, I don't get it when one heavyweight fights another heavyweight. I don't see the point of that. And it's like, but like there what you just said, sometimes that rallies the troops to be like, guys, we've come out in our hometown, people paid good money, and we're embarrassing out here right now, right? And I just took shots to the head, got stitches, whatever. Let's go, right? People are playing like that's, and then the other one I heard, which was fascinating, is that Scott Parker shared this story that one time he didn't want to say who won his team, but you know, there's an agitator trying to play in that role, and the elbows were coming up, and then he had another enforcer come to him and say, hey, control your guy or you and me are throwing down next period. And Parker's, his fist was all swollen, and he went to his own team and said, hey, fucking play the game properly, right? Because I don't feel like fighting that big bastard tonight. And his teammate was like, well, Parks, I'm just trying to get in the game. He's like, I know, we're all trying to be effective, but just keep it under control. And so you don't realize sometimes that, the injuries and stuff those guys prevented by doing that.
See, that was the problem with those guys. There was those guys, and then there was guys, like the Mike Keens. Mike Keen would go out and he would stir up stuff. Well, he'd drop the gloves and he'd take on another middleweight.
Yeah.
And he would do it that way. So, those other little agitators, pain in the asses, they didn't realize that, well, you can grab some guy on the other team your weight and have a fight too.
Yeah.
You're not just here to draw penalties and dive.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the shift, and that's I know for me that's where now coming here it's all kind of surreal sitting down with you two and discussing this is the impact that film has had. As we talked off air, I did a little Google search to make sure, and any list you go on, if you go top 10 hockey documentaries ever made, you go on IMDb, Internet Movie Database, the Hockey Writers, Ice Guardians is always in that argument, usually in the top 5. So I thank you guys again. It was an honor to be able to tell that story and to be able to say that. That was kind of my love letter to the game, because it was the enforcers that brought me to it. It was going to school with Parker and Fedoruk and seeing them go to high school and them nervous about who was coming next week and what they had to do for their team
crazy.
And stepping up.
Couldn't imagine.
So to explain a little bit about when you guys are talking about it, and I feel like, a little like I'm the devil or angel over your shoulder sort of thing, but the one thing I have to say is I never ever did it for entertainment. Like I never considered like I'm just going to go out and entertain the people. I went out to make a point, or I didn't do it. And sometimes the point was for the guys, hey, I want you to all know I had your back. Or sometimes it was because someone was taking advantage of someone. But either way, I never did it because I felt like I should, go out there because the fans, expect me to do it or something. I just didn't do that. I just felt like, and I say that all the time because of a little bit of the health setback I've had. The hardest thing for me now is my whole life I've been running at the fight, and now, I can't, and I want to get back to running at the fight. But I appreciate what you're saying, and the movie made such an impact on so many people. And I'm hoping that I know you spoke to Brett, and hopefully there's a follow-up to it, and we're going to talk about, all the great things you've done. I do want to speak to the show itself right now. We're live streaming. We're watching the Blues Blackhawks. So in the future, if you want to watch the game and turn down my buddy Curbs and Vitali, then that's okay too. Listen to us, tell stories, And as the game goes on, which is, you know, a 0-0 game so far, we'll try and get you a highlight or two and pull them off the internet as best we can. But also, we've got a group behind us in our watch party room, so you're going to hear a little bit of noise. You're going to see some people walking through. It's going to be an entertainment of kind of a mix mosh of different things that we want to do here, Adam. So,
I like it. I like
traditional.
I like that. I like that you have a watch party and you get kind of the audience involved and as well as the game. And I think the two of you are like, I'm excited because I don't think you could have better hosts for this. Is the two of you going back out there is the realness brought to the game. It was so refreshing. I think that's why Ice Guardians connected so well. There's a lot of screen time for both of you guys on the film because you guys speak. Unfortunately, something majority of hockey players do is we speak a little too complimentary.
PC,
yeah, PC would be the way to put it.
PC for me.
Yeah, and it's a
team game. You know, I just try to go out there and work hard. And
you want a little bit of individuality, and
absolutely.
we're dealing with that now.
Coach is an idiot.
Yeah. You love it when there's a little bit of, you're like, whoa, did that guy just speak from the heart there? Like, I know, not to plug another movie, but you want to talk about another player that has a great story. The stories that are worthy of movies are the character guys, right? They're the ones that you want to do. If you're just your third line, play by the rules, score goals, like nobody wants to do a movie on you. You're like, well, I got some pretty decent stats. It was like, that's amazing. But
you just did Jordan Tutu.
We're doing Jordan Tutu. You want to talk about a story. Here's a guy that came from Rankin Inlet, Nunavut. So for those American listeners, that is the Arctic. It's basically the North Pole where Inuit communities live. There's no paved roads. They drive Hondas, as they call them. Like they either drive snowmobiles or quads all over. He came from a rink that was outdoor in the snow. Like you literally have to check for polar bears in the morning when he was going to walk to the rink to make sure that you didn't get attacked. Right? And then what did everybody love about Tutu's game? Was it that he put up 30 goals a year? No. It was that he was one of the hardest hitters for his size at like 5'8" that he was, right? And demolishing guys.
Yeah,
and
built like a fire hydrant.
Oh, he's like a little tank eating beluga whales that he hunted himself as a kid. Before one of his major tournaments, I don't know if you guys knew this, but when he first got noticed was in Native Provincials in Alberta, right? And then they brought him down to Spruce Grove to play is where he first started to get noticed. The further south you went as an Inuit.
It was like Florida.
Yeah.
Spruce Grove.
Well, he came, listen to this story, Brett. So he goes into a place with his skates because a lot of it is hand-me-downs up there, right? He had his brothers. He came in, he's like, oh, I need these sharpened. And the guy thought he was joking. He's like, oh, you haven't actually skated on these antiques, have you? And he's like, yeah, last week. And they're like, oh my God, the blades on these are horrible. Like, how did you? He's like, I don't know. That's just what I was used to.
The old tubes, like my dad used to skate on.
But in Alberta, when Tutu first came, because he had so much pent-up rage and anger, which you see in the film from, the trauma at home and the volatile household, that teams at that age at U15 would cancel playing against him because they never seen a 14-year-old come and crush kids, or whenever you could first start hitting, if it was U15 back then, he was terrifying team because most kids are just learning how to hit. He's running through kids, right? So they would literally at tournaments, they'd forfeit, right? And then there's you heard even in the NHL, there's a few players that would get the Tutu flu because they didn't want, they're like, oh no, I have to play him all night? No, not doing it. And an incredible human being off the ice too is he's got his story is a story of inspiration and hope, but came from nothing and built a giant career. And one of the reasons Smashville is called Smashville is because of him.
Right.
He had his own whistle. They had a Tutu. We couldn't find it anymore. Only collectors have it. But he had his own whistle. I'm like, how many other players playing for this organization had the Tutu train whistle? None. Him. Those character players are what people remember, right? That's what I became a fan of the game because of the Dave Semenkos, the Scott Parkers, the Todd Fedorics, these guys that brought an edge, that passion to the game that when I went, I was like, man, I identify with this guy. He's giving everything he's got, right, for his teammates.
What's the most fascinating story that he probably...
Tutu? Yeah. Oh, there's so many, but I'll tell you, so there's one before a major tournament, he was out seal hunting with his dad. And they harpooned the seal, and then they turned really quickly, but the rope caught his hand when he was only age could have been 12 to 15 and almost severed his hand. It went against the boat and they were pulling and they had to go and it cut right through his glove. He still has a giant scar. And, this is how they fed the family. So they're like, well, just put it in the salt water to clean it. We're not going home for a day and a half, right? And then you got to be ready for your tournament next weekend. So his hand got so infected, right? Like it was, by the time he was in his gloves for the weekend, all the sweat and everything, but he still played an amazing tournament. He's got this giant scar. He almost lost his hand. It got so infected. Jeez. But for him to play through that kind of pain and stuff was normal, right? It was like,
I would imagine he's got a
he was like, oh, that's
high pain tolerance.
Did he not end up at OCN too in Manitoba with his brother Terrence, right?
Yes.
Who actually ended up taking his life.
Taking his own life, yeah.
Suicide and depression.
And we actually...
Well, let the people know, what is OCN?
Yeah.
So it's basically the Paw, Manitoba, Flin Flon, Manitoba area, right? Okay, so he
just south of the Arctic,
Yeah. Well, I think his brother's last year he played for Wendell Clark's brother Kerry.
Oh, I didn't know. But yeah, he played in OCN. Jordan was playing for the Wheat Kings then, right? But his brother was playing up north. And we go into that in depth in the film of when his brother took his own life. Is that him and Jordan were out drinking. His brother dropped him off at his girlfriend's place. And then his brother was driving home, got pulled over. And the cops were actually trying to do him a favor because everyone knew the Tutus. He was very well known, both him and his brother. So they took him home to the Billets home, who Jordan was staying at the Billets. Terrence was no longer staying there, but he was like another son to them, so he was welcome. And when you're that drunk, you're supposed to drop him off to an adult, but the Billets didn't know that he had come home. And then he went out and he found the shotgun because he felt that he had let the family down because him and Jordan were kind of the beacons to kind of help them get out of town. And he wrote Jordan a note saying, "Go, Jordan, you're the man. Go all the way." That's why Jordan's book is called All the Way. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then Jordan didn't really face his demons because he got drafted shortly after in the NHL, and the drinking and everything caught up with him later on in his career. But now, incredibly positive. Jordan's 11 years sober. He spends all of his time now speaking for suicide prevention and mental health awareness. He's very active in his daughter's life. He's a really good girl dad. He's coaching hockey. He's one of the best. Like, I mean, most of the tough guys you meet, you guys know, like, honestly, they're some of the best. I've been fortunate enough to work.
They are the best.
Yeah, with athletes and honestly, the tough guys and the role play, like, those are some of the best people I've ever worked. I wish everyone I worked with was as humble and as giving and as they are, because I work with a lot of other athletes that certainly are not that way. And I'm like, actually, could you go hang out with my friends and learn some humility, please? These guys are, because they could physically put you in that space, so you could also learn from them. So no, it changes me getting to tell these stories. Obviously, I see the game much differently, and when I speak to this now and show my kids highlights of all this, they look at it, they're like, wow, when I go to hockey games, they're not like that. I'm like, no, they've changed a little bit since.
A little bit. Yeah.
Now it's time for your Get Check moment of the game. And today we're talking about prostate cancer. Did you know that besides skin cancer, prostate cancer is the most common cancer among American men? But it's very treatable, especially with early detection. Fellas, please speak to your primary physician about knowing when to get your PSA test done. A simple blood test could save your life. Typically, it's recommended you get the first test done around the age of 50. But if your family has a history of other factors, you may opt to get it done as early as your 40s. It's a simple blood test, and that's it. And if you're in Missouri or the Illinois area, you can go to getscreenednow.com, or you type in your zip code and find a screening location near you. Or you visit siteman.washu.edu. Go back on a little backstory on you. We talk about how you grew up, and you talk about, things being a little different.
Yeah.
You grew up
different
in an environment where your dad ran nightclubs and some strip clubs.
Well, let's call it Spade. It was a strip club.
Strip club.
It was briefly a nightclub, and then it turned to a strip club. Yeah, I grew up.
Now, what happened? Your father passed away, right?
Yeah.
Passes away, and then you have to take it over, and the Hells Angels decide they want to kind of make it theirs.
Yeah, I inherited. So my dad owned Cheetahs in Kelowna, which is a pretty iconic strip club
right up
back in the day.
road from Penticton, where I played junior.
Yeah. Slack Alice's, the strip club out there. I know where all the strip clubs are because I used to be with an agency, right, that booked them all. So, yeah, I lost my dad young. My dad was 47, he had heart issues that he had battled as a kid, had a hole in his heart, and then a valve put in much later. And then, so I inherited his club at 23 years old. And you know, when I worked there as a kid, like I bartended and I worked the door and I did coat check when I was really young. But it's different when you're not making decisions of that world, right? When I came in as the decision maker, and at the time, like Kelowna's really developed now, and almost all the nightclubs are gone. Kind of that culture shifted. It's pubs now and everything now. It's not. But at the time, it was really us and Roses were the two busiest places. So everybody came in there, and the way it works with the motorcycle clubs is most of the agencies that book the dancers are owned by them. So I'd grown up with a lot of them. A lot of the guys that are, like the president now is a friend of my dad's and mine that went through there. But there was just a few bad apples that were members that were trying to intimidate me. And as a 23-year-old kid, I didn't know. At the time, I thought, like, oh, they're all together. Like now a few of them, because I've written, a lot of them like me to write witness testimony statements and stuff, character stuff of, because I don't know, kind of like tough guys, they're not all bad guys. A lot of those guys were good guys to my dad, right, and good to me. But there was a few that were bad, and they're like, Adam, why didn't you tell me? I was like, I'm 23. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this. Yeah. Like my dad just died, didn't even have time to mourn because the Sharks were coming around so quickly. Like, you should do this with your club, and we should be partners, and we should be partners. But you know, it's funny looking back. We were talking about this earlier off air. I think that's what prepared me for producing, because being thrown into that 23, I barely had time to grieve. My dad and I were very close. I'm thrown into this world where I met my wife, right? And I'm dealing with...
Was she dancing?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you... I mean,
no, it's fair question. Fair question.
That's really nice.
She was not dancing, but she did help me manage it. Like when my dad died, she bartended and waitressed for years, so she jumped right in there and helped me get through that. She was the one that was by my side when the whole world seemed to be coming against us. And it's unfortunate with if you have a parent die or you get any kind of estate young. My dad's will wasn't clear. He was a strip club owner, so it was kind of messy. And
yeah.
I had my half sister actually try to get like thugs to come collect for me and everything. Like, it was crazy to go through. But that's where I learned how to produce and to solve problems. Is that 23 years old, I inherit a strip club. I meet who would be my wife. She gets pregnant shortly after that. I'm dealing with motorcycle clubs. I'm dealing with strippers. There's cocaine and drugs everywhere. Like the Okanagan, we grew up calling it the Kokanagan, right? It was it was everywhere. It was rampant. Our club was like Studio 54. It's where everybody would come to get their drugs, watch some shows, drink some beers, and go to the nightclubs for the last hour. So that's really where I didn't go to traditional film school. I didn't go to Juilliard or New York Film School or Vancouver Film School. I inherited a strip club and got out of that being able to not have to look over my shoulder, and that's really where I learned my producing skills.
That's unbelievable.
So I think that's how I was able to navigate the challenges of something like Ice Guardians with the NHL and everything. This seemed like a cakewalk. Oh, I get to deal with great guys that are loyal and stick with it. Like, I was like, it's pretty easy.
Well, that got you into the Union and Culture High.
Yeah, well, those I did first, right?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, those.
That's what I mean. So, like, you in Canada, illegal marijuana.
Yeah.
And you do 2 movies to expose cannabis, and basically they changed the law in Canada because of those 2 movies.
Well, I won't
One
take
of the reasons.
I won't take all the credit, but there was definitely some influence because our first one, The Union, The Business Behind Getting High, and this is where I met Joe Rogan and why I got welcomed on his podcast, because kind of like Holly was one of the only superstar, NHL players to talk about how much he appreciated the role of the enforcer when it was not a time to do that. Joe Rogan was one of the only celebrities that would openly talk about cannabis laws being ridiculous, right? And he was not your stereotypical, when you thought of like a stoner, it wasn't a guy that's got his black belt in jiu-jitsu, was a U.S. Open in Taekwondo and was the host of Fear Factor and everything. You're like, what? This guy smokes weed? So he was open, and he's great in the film, but that film, originally I got into it because, like you say, I grew up in the nightclubs, and our best clients were a lot of times the growers because they had disposable income that they had troubles getting into banks, right? Because you can't go, I have a $50,000 cash deposit today, right? But those guys, when they come to the nightclub, you always knew when the crop outs were happening, because all of a sudden all these guys come in and they're buying drinks for the whole bar and they're spending money. We're like, oh, okay. So I kind of saw how it was weird that those guys were our best customers and we catered to them, yet they were doing something that was illegal at the time, right?
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know it was illegal when I was in high school in North Vancouver. I just thought everybody did this.
Well, North Van, that's like a regular thing, right? BC.
Well, he quit playing for a year about, what, 16 or
17,
15?
yeah.
Really?
And just quit for a year and just started just hanging around, smoking weed, just acting like a...
Used to buy a quarter pound just to get the ounce free.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, Brett, I was just talking about this. So if you went to high school in BC, did you have smoke pits at your school when you went?
Yeah.
So think about, I was just
Yeah,
thinking about
but
this.
they were mostly for the cigarette people around the school, but then
everybody would smoke.
Yeah.
But even think
they
about,
weren't monitored by any
no,
means. Yeah.
but think about that. I was talking about this the other day. Who did the tobacco companies fucking lobby to be able to get smoke pits in high school? Because we had one too.
Yeah, it's
I tell
crazy.
people this. People are like, "What do you mean you had a smoke pit? Is that like a place you'd sneak?" We're like, "No, we had a designated smoke pit.
Yeah,
where
for high school kids.
It was off of school grounds, just off of where you could smoke cigarettes." But I'm like, "Wait, what was the age that you're supposed to be able to smoke cigarettes? 19 in BC."
Right?
Right? Because that's the age you could buy it. So how the fuck did they lobby to allow you to have... Because every high school when I grew up had a smoke pit.
Right.
That's where we used to go to fight, smoke weed, and smoke cigarettes. If
And
you did
hide
it.
your beer in the creek.
Yeah, and hide it. And they were, but that's... I was like... I was explaining this to my daughter, and I was saying it in a line, and she's like, "What? No, wait, what's a smoke pit? What is that?" I'm like, it was a place where the high school, if you're on school grounds, you get suspended, but if you're in the smoke pit, you're allowed to smoke
And
cigarettes.
you'd have your groups, right? Like the burnouts.
Oh, yeah.
and
The burnouts,
the shrubs.
and yeah. And then people would blaze too. And then if the teachers came around, like, "I smell something else," you're like, "Oh, it's American cigarettes. It's Marlboros or something, right?" Is it they'd say.
Those are those herbal ones.
Yeah, those herbal
My
ones.
mom brought them back from her trip to
But
Europe.
how did they ever allow that? I look back now, like if my kids had a smoke pit, where I'm like, no
No
one's
shit.
age. That's a tobacco lobbies had it strong back then.
Well, talk a little bit about those two movies, because
Oh,
took a lot of... You ended up going into Parliament
yeah.
and speaking to Congress in Canada.
Yeah, changing the culture of Canada.
Yeah, so the Union became such a cult classic. Even now, we were Googling. I introduced me. Who was your friend that we met earlier? It's working with your can.
Nick Ranella.
Nick.
With
and
hippos.
I was showing him, I was like, go on your phone right now and Google top 10 cannabis stocks ever made. And the Cult Tri was number 1, and the Union was number 2, both which I made. The Union had gotten so popular, but I'll tell a little backstory of why it got so popular. It was when Facebook and social media was first starting, before all the algorithms hoodwinked them and you had to pay for advertisement, when you could legitimately just independently connect to audiences that wanted to hear about it. Right. And because cannabis was underserved at the time with really only high times in cannabis culture in Canada, the doc had built a huge following. So much so that Parliament Hill in Canada, for American listeners, that's like Capitol Hill in the States, right? Had received thousands of emails and letters that they actually invited me to screen the movie, bipartisan, to educate politicians on what would then become the legalization bill in 2018. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not a fan of the Liberals in Canada. I think the only reason they did this is they saw such a swell of emails are like, this is how we can win the younger voter, right? We can get them on the cannabis bill, not the benefits financially and the crimes and all the horror stories that we are told about. If you legalize cannabis, the whole world will fall apart. Well, clearly that's not the case.
Yeah, obviously.
Because actually, I'd say the ground level of cannabis legalization has been good. It's the politicians of Canada that are running it into the ground more than... And something that was fascinating for me to see, having done that film, is that that released in 2007, did its film festival tours, and when those was on networks and Netflix and stuff in 2009. And from 2009, when it was evil and dangerous and it was a gateway drug and you'd be doing heroin in 2 weeks, to 2020 when COVID hit, where all the cannabis stores were allowed to stay open because they were an essential service along with alcohol. I was like, wow, have times changed.
Yeah, no kidding.
10 years ago it was evil and dangerous and was the worst part of our society, and then it was an essential service.
Well, thank God, because it is an essential service.
Well, when we talk about movies, one of the most interesting movies that I loved, I mean, just from an emotion standpoint, was The Good Son.
Well, that one gets tears every time.
Yep.
That one is, and it was awesome work with Ray Boom Boom Mancini. So The Good Son isn't the Good Son movie with Macaulay Culkin, the horror movie or the thriller. Yeah. It's The Good Son, The Life of Ray Boom Boom Mancini. That movie was one of the ones that really made me fall in love with filmmaking, and why, because making documentaries, you know, you're not doing it to drive Ferraris, and it's an amazing journey to go and tell these stories and share rooms with you guys and do this, but you don't do it purely. If you're doing it purely for money, then you won't get fulfilled. But telling stories like that. So for those that don't know, Ray Boom Boom Mancini was very, very exciting fighter when he fought. He was a champion that wanted to win a world title for his father. His father was destined to be a world champion, but then his father took shrapnel in the war, was too heavy, was not doing well in fight because the shrapnel actually gave him like an extra 8 pounds, so he couldn't make weight at his small physique because they couldn't get some of it out. So Ray had made a promise to his dad when he was a young kid that I will win a world title for you. And his dad was like, no, don't do it for me, Raymond. If you want to fight, go ahead. It's a very tough sport. You shouldn't do it. And Ray went into the sport, became an amazing world champion. And then in one of his early title defenses, he tragically takes the life of a father, Dooku Kim, in a now legendary fight. If the ending didn't end with the death of Dooku Kim, it would have been an amazing fight because you had this virtually unknown Korean fighter that by the graces of the WBC was given a bit better ranking to fight Ray. And it was an amazing fight. Early on in the fight, he was kind of taking it to Ray, and everybody was shocked. And in the doc, we meet Dooku's son for the very first time. Ray meets him. Very emotional and powerful day when we shot that in L.A. The Korean culture is amazing. Ji-won is the son's name.
But talk about just bringing what happened with the family.
Yeah, so in the film, we bring Ji-won over from Korea. We went and met him there first. We went to Korea, and Dooku's actually quite a legend there. They built him a pretty prestigious like burial site and stuff like that for him because he kind of represented the hardworking Koreans. He came from nothing, literally slept in the barn with a cow, and fighting was everything for him to get, to bring his family to new heights. So when he had the opportunity to fight Ray, he wrote in his journal that he's like, I will die before I will lose this fight because it's my opportunity. And unfortunately, that is what happened. But we met Ji-won in Korea, and we brought the family over. I don't know if this was, I can't remember if we clear this in the film because the mom didn't tell Ji-won till he was till he was 12 who his father really was because she didn't want him to get into boxing. So he didn't even really know. He always thought his father was just away from work.
Didn't he find out on a playground or something that his dad was?
Yeah, someone's like, do you know who your dad is? He's pretty iconic. So we met Ji-won, really smart, great kid, and we brought the family over to meet Ray. Ray's fantastic too, but that's those kind of moments when you're setting that up and you've seen the emotion, like we were all wrecked the next day. You don't realize how emotionally exhausted you get trying to set these up. Like, I was like, why am I so tired? And it was like, because you're seeing these people get so emotional, and we're all crying behind the scenes. The translator translating, because Ji-won could only speak Korean.
So set that up a little bit. You're at dinner or something.
Yeah, so we're at dinner. We're sitting at a place in L.A. I can't remember where we went. El Forno was this called. I can't remember. I remember that. And we're sitting there, and actually Ed Harris wanted to come, who was like Al Bundy from he was friends with G. He's like, oh my God, I want to see this meeting. And so we're all sitting there, and it's really, they'd met at the house early, and then they went to go for dinner, and it's very polite, and the Koreans are very honorable in saying them. But then Ji-won has a bit of emotion, and he wants to ease any burden that Ray's had. He wants to lift that from him because he's like, I don't blame you. You were two warriors and went in there, and we're all sitting at the table, but we have a translator because he can't speak English. The translator can't even translate. He's bawling because he's hearing what Ji-won wants to tell Ray, right? And Ji-won's crying, and like we're all crying behind there, and Ray's trying to keep it together, and there's cameras all in your face. It's hard to set this up, but those are those moments you're like, this is why I became a filmmaker, because we want to share those stories so people can feel them when they're at home, right? I think that's why docs are probably more popular now than ever, because I think so many movies now, they're pumped out so quickly, even with big name actors. I don't know if you guys get this, but I watch a lot of them, and I don't really care about the characters. It's going by so quick. The storyline's moving so quick that I think docs, like, they're really people.
6-minute fight scenes.
Yeah, and it's just all about cool action, and I think people are resonating with unscripted because you're like, oh, I can relate to that person. I can feel with, like, although I've never been in that situation, I've had my own turmoil in life or own things I've had to overcome, and you connect with that.
To bring those two families together is, it's got to be unprecedented. It had to touch them so deeply.
It was nice for Ray. Had said he'd made peace a long time before that, but it was, Ji-won, for them to do, and we didn't know. You don't know how that setup could be. He could have come over and blamed, but no. I mean, Ji-won is so sweet, and it's a lot of kind of Korean culture's got a lot of that warrior spirit like that, where they it's one of those special ones when you watch that. I get emotional as I get older. I'm more sappy now. I think like every movie when I share it with an audience now, I'm getting emotional in the back because I put 2 to 3 years of my life into each one, right? And when I see people getting emotional reactions, that gets me emotional. I know when we did the Ice Guardians premiere in Toronto,
Yeah.
and we had like the Hall of Fame of tough guys up there, right? With you and Wendell and McGrattan and Brendan Shanahan shows up. We had it was all these guys, and then the standing ovation and people getting emotional. And I think you had a relative chaser come up to you and saying, "I never understood what you really did."
A friend of mine from school, she came up crying, and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" She said, "I'm sorry," and I said, "Why? What are you sorry about?" She said, "I never knew. I never defended you. When they just called you a goon and all he knows how to do is fight, I never defended you because I didn't understand it. And I'm so sorry." And I said, "You don't need to be sorry. Shit. It didn't bother me any.
Right.
I got to live my dream." And she said, I feel awful. I think
to
one of the
room with
coolest
Brett
things
Hall.
at the Toronto Film. What's that?
I got the room with Brett Hall.
Yeah, I got the room with Brett Hall or whatever. A room with his suitcase. Anyway, we get up on stage, and Gazdick, I think,
Yeah, Luke Gazdick was there. Yeah.
says to Wendell, "Hold on, before we start, I gotta shake Wendell Clark's hand. He's my hero." And as he's getting up, McGrattan puts his hand in front of him and says, "Easy, kid. He's my hero. I get to do this first." And he just grabs Wendell and he's hugging him on stage, and everyone's cheering.
Right.
But the mutual respect that they had for the way Wendell played, and being Ontario guys, and the way Wendell played, I was laughing because, of course, I grew up with Wendell and I knew exactly what he was about, and we're around him my whole life, and I just guess I took it for granted. But these two guys were just mesmerized that Wendell was on stage with them.
I forgot about that. That was a great story because the way it is to picture so they're all lined up. We can barely fit all the guys on the stage, all these broad-shouldered, because Fedoruk was there and Riley Cote and a whole bunch of them. And then we couldn't get him on the stage, and then Gazdick had to go past Big Earn to get to Wendell to shake his. And that's a Big Earn's like, whoa, buddy, me first.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
No, that was. Those nights are, those premieres, and it's funny because COVID kind of took them away recently, and now I've just been doing them again for some films, and I realize how special they are. They kind of keep us going when we have our, like in any business, you have your grinds and your down days, and it's hard to make money and get these things. So you appreciate those when the audience can really, there's no phones, and you're there, and you get those moments. It's like, they're special. I really, really cherish that. That was a very special night in your family. That's where I first got to meet all your brothers. That's where I first met Will.
Yeah.
And then we brought him to work on the Danny Trejo doc we did later.
That's right. And we'll talk about that probably after the period here. But folks, listen, you're here in the Ice Guardian podcast right now, our Winter World Studios, presented by Siteman Cancer Center. And listen, all our friends that are part of our sponsorship from McBride Homes, who John Eilerman, nobody does it better in building homes, and they're everywhere you want to live here in this community and in the Missouri area. We've got them all here. Our friends from Hippos, which is part of our cannabis we just talked about. I know you just talked about Nick Ranella. We've got all these wonderful guys, Car Shield, all these people that have shown up here tonight to represent. They're all going to be behind us. I know you're going to go take a mic and
Yep.
they're going to take a camera and talk with them. Blues, no score yet. We got nothing to show you on that.
You watch
Did I
the
miss
game.
it?
You watch the game, and you realize how old you are. My college roommate, Jim Toninato, his son is playing for the Blackhawks tonight.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's funny, even around the locker room with the Kachuk boys. You're around there. Matthew calls me the other day about something, and he's talking to me like a man, and I feel like it wasn't last year. I was kind of rubbing him on the head as he was going by, and they were beating the hell out of everybody in the United States. And that team that Walt had put together there with Brownie and Jeff Brown and him had soaked together with all those first-round picks. But we're going to take a break in the action here at Ice Guardians. We're live streaming here. The Window World Studios.
First period recap will be brought to you by Car Shield.
Car Shield.
Recraft.
Again, these guys are everywhere in the Missouri area, and all they do is take care of people. We'll be back right after this. Now it's time for your Get Check moment of the game. And today we're talking about prostate cancer. Did you know that besides skin cancer, prostate cancer is the most common cancer among American men? But it's very treatable, especially with early detection. Fellas, please speak to your primary physician about knowing when to get your PSA test done. A simple blood test could save your life. Typically, it's recommended you get the first test done around the age of 50. But if your family has a history of other factors, you may opt to get it done as early as your 40s. It's a simple blood test, and that's it. And if you're in Missouri or the Illinois area, you can go to getscreenednow.com, or you type in your zip code and find a screening location near you. Or you visit siteman.washu.edu. We're coming to you from Window World Studios, Hully. And you know these guys, they're all about windows.
That's right, Chaser. Windows World of St. Louis doesn't just put in windows. They take care of people. Best service in the business, hands down.
And they'll do whatever it takes to make customers happy. And that's why fans around here trust Window World for their homes.
So if you need new windows, go with the teams that's willing to go the extra mile. Window World of St. Louis.
Window World of St. Louis, best in town, buddy.
Absolutely. Chaser, in all our years here in the St. Louis metro area, we have made a lot of great relationships. But one of our favorites and most reliable, John Eilerman from McBride Homes.
No question about it, buddy. I mean, I remember when Ben was, my middle guy, was a preemie, and I was called out of a field I was hunting, and we were in the midst of selling our house. I couldn't believe this was happening 11 weeks early. Come charging back to St. Louis, and McBride Homes finds me a place to live as I'm in the middle of trying to search for a home, and I've had a relationship with them, and that was in 2000. And they've done nothing but take care of blues players, coaches. I know Coach Berube was one of them. And they've just been instrumental in the community. They're such giving people. It's always about charity. It's always about giving back. And that's the reason they say McBride Homes is everywhere you want to live.
Absolutely. And it goes without saying that they are one of the top companies in St. Louis.
100%. All right, welcome into the Window World Studios. Brought to you
by
our
Siteman.
friends at Siteman. Yeah, Siteman. And they're here with us tonight, too.
Yeah, they are. Great people.
They're here with us. We got everybody here from Anheuser-Busch to, we've got our friends from Hippos. We've got our friends from McBride Homes.
There's a lot of stats that we love to talk about.
Car Shield.
Saving lives.
Saving lives.
That's the number one.
That's what Siteman's about.
Absolutely.
They've been so gracious to me. And of course, we have our good friend and buddy in our first show and live kind of simulcast that we're doing, Adam Scorgie, who's been kind enough to join us. And Scorge, you know, we were talking in the last period a little bit about just the energy that it takes to go that long out in a documentary and still be excited about it. And you obviously have gone through those highs and lows of trying to make sure that it, you know, it ends up the way you do. What's one of the ones that took the longest that you thought, man, I sure hope this works out, and it turned out to be great?
That's Ice Guardians. That was 8 years from concept to delivery, because when I was first pitching it, we were kind of talking about this off air, is that at that time, it seems crazy because there's so many great sports docs now and everybody's loving them. But at that time, when I was pitching broadcasters and streamers, they thought nobody wanted to watch sports docs. They're like, we're not into sports docs. Often the buyers, or the suits, as they were called in like Entourage, like they kind of go where the wind blows. They're like, well, this did very good, so we need more of that.
But it's really, you know, that's how dumb people are. They pigeonhole it as sports. It's not sports. It's a story. It's lives, and you put it together like in such a magnificent way that it's you lose sight of what it's really all about, and you just see the people and the emotion of it all, and it's an incredible talent to have.
Well, thanks, Holly. That means a lot, hearing that, and that exactly. But when you're pitching, suit's the best word for it. When you're pitching a suit, and you're trying to get them this, like, let's be honest, most of them went to that side of the table because they couldn't create, right? So then they're the ones that have to dictate whether you
like coaches.
Yeah.
They can't play, so they coach.
So they coach those that can't teach, right?
Yeah.
So it took years to get in front. And then the other part was obviously the NHL was very hesitant because, you know, they'd seen, and I understand where they were coming from because, you know, legacy media was really slagging them any chance they could at that point. So, you know, they had their guard up as well. But then when I learned how to do fair use law, right, that's where, because we never licensed any of the NHL footage in there, right? There is a way that you can use. Fair use is created in an American and Canadian copyright as a way to be able to use licensed material without licensing it. But none of the big companies like you knowing this, right? So when I got educated on that, that's when I was like, oh, okay, then we were able to do it because the NHL still never gave me the blessing. And Kelly, you'd help try to set that up.
Yeah.
Like we never got the blessing to license the footage to make it. They just were like, no, we want nothing to do with it.
Of course. Why? Whatever happened to any PR is good PR.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
It
Well,
was
and not
Why would
only
you
that,
not
though.
want? Why wouldn't you not? You want your sport out there
Yeah.
where millions of people are going to watch. And
Yeah, the other part of it too, though, Hully, was I think, and the Blues have just scored, so we got a 1-0 score in the hockey game, and hopefully we can get you a clip of that here shortly and show you. I think the other thing of it is too is everyone's that's when the thing was changing, so everyone was so scared. Oh my God, this guy got knocked out in a fight. I'm going to tell you this. For you to get guys get knocked out in fights, okay?
Yeah.
And they start talking about the concussion problem. Now, the concussions happen when you hit the ice, or there's far more concussions of the sudden stops and contact in a game than there ever is in a fight. Now, if you get knocked out in a fight, someone's hit you on the light switch, okay? That can cause a problem, certainly. But the punches to the head, they talk about all that. Like, I don't know that that's as damaging as when I'm meeting a guy behind the net and I'm going full speed and I run into Dave Manson and he's clearly 30 pounds heavier than me and 3 inches taller than me, and I run into him and I stop suddenly.
Well, you guys.
I'll go with the 3 inches taller. I don't know about heavier.
Well, I mean, what did he play at? 230?
Well, yeah, so you were
225?
about the same.
Well, I played at 192, 194. Like, the heaviest I ever was as a player was 204, and that was 1 week, and then I got my reamed out, and I was back down to 200 pounds. So, like, you run into somebody that's 230 pounds, and there's a sudden stop.
Yeah.
The brain's going forward.
Oh, absolutely. Those
Yeah.
football players, I can't even imagine.
Well, you
At least
guys,
we got the glide, you know?
Yeah. Well, actually, Hully, you talk about this. So there's and good points on both of you guys there that we discovered doing this is that, you know, with everybody wanting the game to get faster, repercussions come with that, right?
Yeah.
Because as is said in the film, body checks now become collisions, right? When you can now go 30 miles an hour, 30 kilometers, whatever the speed is. And now, Brett, you say it beautifully. It always gets a laugh in the theaters. You're like, look at the shoulder pads that we played with compared to what they do now.
Yeah.
Like ours were there to, he's like, you didn't hit guys. He's like, I didn't hit a lot of guys because it hurt me to hit
Yeah,
them.
we wore them because it was like you had to wear them.
Yeah.
They
Now,
really weren't there. My wife and I just moved from Nashville to Dallas, and we were cleaning out the attic, and I opened up, I don't know, 10 hockey bags in there, and I opened it up, and I pulled out my shoulder pads, and I looked at my wife, and I go, these are the shoulder pads I wore when I played.
Crazy.
And she goes, holy cow.
Exactly.
There's
So
nothing there.
you add all those elements, and now, a good example, my daughter is playing in the NCAA, and concussions are rampant in there, and there's no fighting. So fighting was like the scapegoat to try to explain, like, oh, we're solving it, so we're going to reduce fighting. But really, you want it faster. There's going to be more concussions. The faster the game gets, the more concussions.
Sure.
Because as we have the concussion specialist, and for the video, he explains it great in the film, right? If your thumbs are your heads, you don't even have to have head contact, right? Your body hits a concussion is your brain
The
rattling in your
whiplash.
skull. That's why a lot of
Rattling
people,
inside your skull, yeah.
The head
when
hits
two
the
people,
side,
you can
yeah.
hit totally. You can go body to body. You can even go hip to hip. But if your head snaps, right, that can cause a concussion. You get in the girls' game a ton. So if you really wanted to curb concussions, you'd slow down the game. But that's not happening.
Right. You'd allow-
Hey, I thought we did a pretty good job of that when we played.
Yeah, I slowed the game. I brought it to a standstill many nights.
There you go. Well, and that reckless abandon too, because guys will wear shoulder pads now and they can fly into guys and they don't get hurt in the process. but they can really hurt someone, and then there being no repercussions, right?
I hate watching your team, the Edmonton Oilers,
Yeah.
because I swear to God, that McDavid's going 50 miles an hour, 4 feet from the boards,
Yeah.
and I'm afraid to death that he's going to end up head first, and it just scares the hell out of me.
I think, and I remember the first game he played in the NHL. He was in St. Louis, and I remember Jay Bomeister, who was a great skater. I was doing the game between the benches, broadcasting, and he went by Jay Bomeister like, and I mean Jay could skate just like he was standing still, and Jay come to the bench and he didn't even speak. You know, he was just a really quiet guy. He looked at me, he goes, "Hey, if you get a chance, tell that fucking kid to slow down." It was unbelievable. And you could tell, like, this kid is special, right?
Yeah.
But as Hully
Is he
said,
ever?
one thing about it was he's going so fast, it's just an edge or whatever, and you just don't, he's such a great kid, too, man. I love the kid.
I know, he's a nice... Well,
And so, like, for me, the speed of the game's great, but, man,
comes with consequences,
comes
right?
with consequences.
And yet you have to... That was something that was really interesting to learn. Again, these are the fascinating parts when you do docs, because you really go in it with honest curiosity, right? And you discover things. Like, we didn't know everything we discover in Ice Guardians. We discovered... I found my love for the enforcer role became so much more just because you also want a guy like a Chase, like when you hear how passionate they are about the game and the sacrifice they're willing to make for others, their teammates, like, how many, I'm sure you guys have both played with players that don't really seem to give a shit about the team. They care about themselves. Like, I want guys like Chaser that are like, I want to go to battle. If I'm going into a playoff, right, where it's going to be 16 grueling games, I want a guy like that that's even just on the bench to bring me up if he's not getting ice time. Right?
You know what's funny? You say that, but in all fairness, hockey has a funny way of weeding guys like that out of the game.
I was going to say the same thing.
yeah.
Like, it really
Chase would
just...
be the first guy to put the whisper out there going, this guy is not for us.
Yeah. As soon as that
They
net gets
know, they
around
watch.
quick,
Yeah.
you don't last long in that league. If you're an asshole, the league has a funny way of weeding guys like that out.
That's nice to hear. I do. And I'll tell you, having worked with tons of athletes, the athletes I enjoy working with the most are hockey players and then fighters, right? The MMA guys, because I think there's any given night, like a big hit, like it's rough games kind of bring humility. And like you said, like they'll weed out. If you're a real piece of shit, the league will get, like, to hear that, that's great. They'll get you. In the enforcer day, they could really get you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
No.
like,
I mean, I talked about this before, but there was times where Twister and I'd be on the bench, and he'd just have to look at me, and I knew, like, I'm going to start some shit, or he's going to, or like something's going to get straightened out. I've seen a couple of pictures of us in the penalty box, like screaming at guys,
Yeah.
and I laugh now at my, at 57 years old, I look at it and I laugh and go, I don't know who the fuck we're yelling at, but you're getting it. Like, you're in bad shape when we get the hell out of here. I can tell you, you do not want to be sitting on the other side of the penalty box when the two of us were barking like that. Because if he's screaming, he's pissed. And he was very methodical about how he did his job. And if he's barking, I'm already through the roof because I know what I'm about. And so if you're the poor bastard on the other side of the ice, it's like going to be a long night for you, fella.
Tell them about when you and Twister played together with us in St. Louis, and the what the other teams were saying in the dressing room before the game.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
It was the race for Chase.
Actually, yeah,
the race for Chase.
The race for Chase. Nobody
The
wanted to
race
fight with
for
him.
Chase.
So they had the race for Chase. So, like, these guys would come out and fight. And finally, he knew what was going on, and I did it, and I'd be fine. But if anybody ever got the better of me, he'd just skate. He'd pick up my gloves. He'd take them to the box. He'd go right to the linesman and standing in front of that guy's penalty box. He'd say, "So we're clear. Now you got me."
Round one's over.
Yeah.
Round two's coming.
Yeah. You see what happens, because now it's best of 7 and you got me next. And he's coming back out after you, but it was a pleasure to play with a guy like that. Then everyone knew they were scared
It was a pleasure to play with him when there wasn't one, there was two. But then we were so good, we had Brendan Shanahan, And let me tell you about how tough Brendan Shanahan was.
Yeah.
I mean, Kelly will tell you. But, I mean, when I signed with the Red Wings and I got to play with Shanny again after St. Louis, and we would play
You ever
the
talk to him
Stars,
about that?
and he would fight Darian Hatcher every game. And Darian Hatcher is a 6'6", 230-pound man.
Minimum 230.
Yeah, and he was tough, and Shanny never even blinked an eye, and they fought every game.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, 500, 600 goals,
Oh, phenomenal
50
players.
goals a season. I mean, could you imagine if he didn't spend that much time in the penalty box? How many would he got?
And you know,
I love playing with Brendan Shanahan as a teammate.
I love playing with him too. I mean, I have the thing that makes me chuckle a little bit about him is I'd start telling stories about him, and he'd get all nervous. He'd say, "Jesus, watch what you're saying. I've seen this story," and he goes, "I'm the president of the Leafs," and I'm like, "So we're going to pretend that never happened. That bar fight never happened. That's what we're going to do. We're going to pretend that never happened."
Chaser and I had dinner last night,
Oh, yeah,
and we started talking about Shanny, and I've never FaceTime anyone in my life, and I said, well, I'll see if I know how to do this. And he answered, and he's in California with his daughter at college doing something.
Volleyball player, yeah.
Yeah, great volleyball player. And we were talking about the fight when you Twister.
Yeah, he
and
goes, "I don't
Shanny
remember that much. I remember
beat the piss out of that
Yeah.
rugby team."
Yeah, it was like Roadhouse in the place with Twister and him. And he goes, I don't really remember that
What
well.
bar was it?
No, I remember Humphreys.
No,
He goes,
not Humphreys.
Yep.
No, the one down the street.
No, it wasn't Clark's. It was Humphreys.
That's right,
It
Humphreys.
was. He goes, I don't remember. I remember being downstairs. Police sent us downstairs. We were just drinking beer and chilling after it happened. And then we came upstairs and everyone was handcuffed. And I just kind of stopped. Oh, but you don't remember the fight part. I had just finished telling Hully. Well, he doesn't remember fighting because when he snapped, it was like he didn't even know what the hell he was doing.
His eyes turned into shark's eyes.
Yeah.
He just rolled back in his head, and he just...
Yeah. No, so, hey, I wanted to ask you a little bit about a movie because it was interesting because you called my son and you had him work on the movie with you. But you did the movie on Danny Trejo.
Oh, God.
And Danny Trejo is the actor, and if you're not familiar with him,
Machete.
just look him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great film, and obviously I'm grateful that you had Will and he was a part of it. It was an interesting time, but his story is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. There's a story that inspires you to be a better person. So Danny Trejo, for those listening, is Machete or the Big Bad Chicano in over 300 movies.
300.
Yeah, he's been in 300 movies. But he never even got out of jail till he was 30, right? And didn't start acting till he was like 40. Started very late, but Danny was in and out of the prison system. His uncle seemed like such a hero to him growing up because he was a Mexican immigrant family that, when he grew up, there was just, you're literally a laborer or you were a gangster. He talks about, he's like, when I went to juvenile hall, I thought that's just where Mexicans were supposed to go because all my neighborhood was in there, right? That's just where, it was like a badge of honor you went there. So his cousin showed him how to do robberies and stuff, and that's where he really got the bad look from, is his cousin was. So Danny was actually facing, now you want to talk about someone that, you be given life challenges and you never want someone to go through this, but if you can and come out on the other side, everyone I know that goes through recovery or goes through traumatic stuff, Jordan Tutu we were talking about earlier went through it. When they come out, they're an incredible person. So Danny, in and out of prison for armed robberies, trying to follow his uncle's or his cousin's lifestyle. Then in prison, gets involved in a prison riot. And he throws a rock trying to get into a rival fight, but hits a prison guard in the head. Now that's a gas chamberable offense, right? To do that to a prison guard. So he's thinking he's going to die. He's put in solitary confinement, and they're awaiting his sentencing. And he prayed to God, and he said, he's like, God, if you give me a sign, if you give me another chance, I promise I will do good and always help others from this point. And when he went to trial, and the prison guard could have picked any one of the three that was involved from his crew in the prison guard fight, and the prison guard didn't pick any of them. He said, I don't know who threw it, so I don't want any of them to get the gas chamber based on my injuries. Danny took that as a sign, right? Whether it was his life, but he took that as a sign. He got sober in prison, became a drug counselor in prison, got out of prison, continued drug counseling to stay sober. And it was because of him always wanting to help others that he got on his first movie set.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
Runaway
interesting.
Train. So he's about to go to bed. Midnight, he gets a call. One of his sponsors says, there's all this cocaine everywhere. I'm going to slip. I need help. And he's like, okay, where are you? Give me the address. I'll come down there. And he made a little joke. Danny's very funny. And he goes, ugh, curse you. God, how long does this promise have to go on? I've done it for many years now. I'm getting tired at bed. Johnny Carson's on. I'm ready to relax. So he goes down. No idea it's a movie set. It's the Runaway Train with
Roberts.
Yeah, Roberts. Eric Roberts.
Eric
is that,
Roberts.
and John Voight. And he comes down, and all of a sudden these guys are doing push-ups, and they got fake tattoos, and they're trying to look hard, and they're like, just make me look tough. And Danny in his head is kind of like, you'd be my bitch in prison, but sure, that makes you look hard, homie. And then, Blues scored another goal there.
Blues have got another one.
So yeah, Danny then goes right away because he's got that intense look, right? And he has someone from the production come up, and they're like, man, would you be willing to be an extra? And he didn't even know what that meant. He's like, an extra what? And they're like, an extra in a movie. He's like, well, what do I need to do? They're like, well, we need you to look like a convict. And he's like, oh, no problem. These blues,
I think I can do that.
These blues fit perfect on me. And then on set, right away, as soon as he was in the frame, then the director, and Danny's cracking jokes. Will knows these jokes from here. He's like, then the director sees him, and he's going like this, right? And Danny's going to his contact. He's like, what gang sign is that? I'm not familiar with this one. And they're like, no, that's the director looking at the frame. And he comes up and he kisses Danny on either side of the cheek. He's like, you will be in my movie. And Danny goes, he's like, he's always a joker, but they're like, so then they made him like an extra character that fights Eric Roberts in Runaway Train. He has the boxing match with him, which Danny actually learned how to box in San Quentin and was a San Quentin champ. So he could teach Eric how to box and do the scene. But he makes a joke in the film. He goes, and they're like, okay, we're going to give you this increased role. We're going to pay you $300 a day. And Danny's like, for $300? He's like, I'll kick the shit out of anybody you want. They're like, no. He's an actor. We don't need real. Just need you to play. And he's like, fine. And when the director was European, so he kissed him on either side of his cheek. And he goes, he's like, hey, I'll do whatever they want. But if he's going to keep kissing me, I want more money. Right? But I'll do it for $300 a day.
Well, and I love from what I heard, he goes, I want to die at the end of every movie because I don't want kids to think that this is a good thing when he plays the bad guy.
He embraces it. You're right. So, I mean, obviously, when he gets the role, it's already scripted in there. But he doesn't mind doing the deaths because he wants to show them that it is romantic.
It's nothing you're going to not.
So actually, Heat, right? He plays the character Heat. So the writer of Heat actually did another movie called Jericho Mile, which was filmed in one of the prisons. Yeah. So you know your movies, Holly. I like it. But in there, they couldn't get much support from the inmates, right? The inmates were kind of all striding. They weren't, and it's tough in a movie. And they actually had Danny's cousin that was his idol was in there. And they had to negotiate with him, Gilbert Trejo, and say, hey, can you kind of rally the troops here and get them to... And he's like, sure, right? So they took care of him. So when he wrote Heat, he inspired the character that Danny played after his own cousin. And then the writer said, the director goes, would you mind if I actually call him? So in the movie, Trejo's character is called Trejo in honor of his cousin Gilbert. That
awesome.
OD'd. So like it's so crazy that like when we heard the story, I was like, this shit can't be real. Like this is, if it was in a scripted movie, it'd be too far-fetched.
Right.
And then his death in that movie, right? If you remember in Heat, his character Trejo's laid out, he's been shot, and he's like, just kill me, Holmes, just kill me. And De Niro shoots him, right? And that he's like, that one, his kids and all say is the hardest because that could have been Danny's life very easily if he continued down the path of armed robbery and got into that that could have been him. And now he's been 55 years sober. He's done over 300 movies. He's from ex-con to icon. He's like one of the most recognizable Latino faces. He's a guy that.
How do you get a hold of him? How does this start, Adam?
So it actually came, this is where doing great work in that industry, it actually came from Ice Guardians, is that film had done so well, and people are like, wow, you really showed a different face of these guys that are often portrayed as, dumb thugs and pugilists. Not my words, Chase. That's how people often write about you guys, unfortunately, till Ice Guardians kind of flipped the switch on that. So Danny was like, and it was professional and it was slick. So a friend of mine had done a movie with him called Zombie Hunter with Danny, right? And then they're like, oh, you should do a doc on him. And I didn't know his story. I just knew him as the actor. And I was like, okay, well, it takes a little bit more than being an actor to have a doc. Then when I heard his real life story, I was like, wow, that's incredible. Oh, okay. And then they watched Ice Guardians and they're like, okay, if you can tell a story like that and show the human side behind these pugilists, we think you can do right by Danny's story.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Always, when you're doing this, I mean, I probably care too much about my docs because I often put too many years into them because I'm not okay with it just being okay, right? When I'm telling somebody's story, I'm honoring the role, like a part of hockey history, like that's...
I just wish you would have got to Hully while his dad was alive.
We did. We did have... You lined that up?
No. I'm saying just to do a documentary on him and his dad.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been special,
Oh, wow. But we did get to interview. Your dad's in there, right? We did.
Yeah, he's in Ice Guardians, yeah.
You lined that... Talking about Chase coming, like, smartest move I could have done was bringing him on as a producer because we went to, it was like a Gretzky event in Vegas. That's right. You and Chelios and Talk, and then your dad was there. We got... Yeah.
You probably got enough B-roll to do another movie.
No, I'd want to do... Well, you'd always have that extra...
We don't use B-roll.
Yeah. Well, you'd want to shoot again because, again, all that extra footage it'd be great to go through it and just see... I mean, we got Derek Bugard's last interview. We got there's great stuff of a lot of great guys in there. I mean, Clark Gillies, Dave Semenko, they're all gone now, right? Like that's kind of, and actually talking about how important that role is to people. And I'm not trying to do a shameless plug here, but we're doing our new series, The Great Ones.
Yeah, that's going to be unreal. I just read about it.
Yeah, so the definitive piece on the Oilers dynasty and how they reshaped hockey. And a name you wouldn't think that comes up in almost every interview we do of how important he was to that team.
Dave Semenko.
Dave Semenko.
Semenko.
From management to the players of how that guy, not just the leadership and the toughness he brought in the room, the one-liners, the humor, the camaraderie that he made. Like, it gets me sad because I was fortunate enough to interview Dave, and he is a fantastic interviewer.
Oh, the best.
And with those like vampiric blue eyes that he has, like
what
he
a
could
great
just
word,
stare
vampiric.
at you. Like, well, I know he does because there's a line in Ice Guardians when he's like, yeah, a lot of times I don't even have to fight. I could just stare at a guy and you gonna play like this all night? And he like glared at me in the interview, and I was like, dude, I don't even play. I'm not playing. I don't even do this role, right?
I have a great story about him. We're in Vegas at Gretz's fantasy camp. I get on a roll at the blackjack table. It's like 1:30 in the morning, and I get on a roll where, an unreal roll. And I probably win, a lot, like in the thousands of dollars. And I'm not a big gambler. But I can't leave the table. I can't lose, right?
Yeah.
So we have a 7:30 bus in the morning. We got the early skate. Sammy's on my team. So I'm coming down the hallway, and this big arm comes around me. Goes, how you doing today, kid? I said, whew, I'm hurting. And he goes, what time do you get home? I said, I got to the room just before 6. And it's like, 7:15. He goes, God, kid, I wish I had that kind of discipline when I played. Fuck, I laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. He just had me roaring. He was the funniest guy. God, I wish I had that kind of discipline when I played. He said, yep. He goes, we'd go to New York. He goes, I'm the only guy that when I checked out of the hotel, there'd be 6 mints on the pillow. Hadn't been back to the room in 3 days. He was the best. He was the best. Hey, are we going to get a highlight here of a Blues clip? Working on it. We're working on it. Drew's working on it.
The other great Dave Semenko story is Glenn Sather. He called him in the middle of summer. He goes, well, Davey, are you training? He goes, are you running or riding your bike? And he goes, hey, Slats, I've been trying, but whether I'm running or I riding the bike, I can't keep my cigarette lit.
That sounds so sad.
Yeah, knee bothering you? No, can't keep my cigarette lit. No, he was the best.
What's that? It makes it. I wish I had more time and I could always just get these things green lit as fast as I wanted to, because it's like where it's telling these great stories, and you're going to lose more and more of them. Not just tough guys either.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Just
the
great.
best part of the game is leaving.
Yeah, and it's well, and even just a story. When we were pitching the Oilers series, the great ones, everyone's kind of like, oh, why do you want to do this? And I was like, because if you wait another 10 years, then who knows the mental state of a lot of these guys? They might not be good enough to do interviews, right? Like, we interviewed Slats, and he was for 6 hours, money, and like Peter Pocklington, right? He's lost his vision, but we interviewed man, the way that you talk about like the game and what the owners were doing, all of them, between McNall and him, to try to get teams and players, like, it is fascinating what that team. I'm telling you, like I was saying this before to Will. If you guys aren't watching, have you guys watched America's Team right now on Netflix about the Dallas Cowboys?
Not yet.
I haven't watched.
Gotta watch it. It is fucking fantastic. The great ones will be hockey's version of that. It will be like, because I've already got Ice Guardians in there as one of the top 10. When people want to do a hockey series, they're going to say we want it to be like the great ones. That's what they're going to try to emulate. The way we're shooting it, the way it's been done, because you're not supposed to compare children with your films, right? They're all special to me, but I'm constantly trying to get better. I didn't just go, okay, Ice Guardians was fantastic, I'm done, right? I'm trying to always get better. So we're bringing more and more to this in the research and stuff that is done. And as we were talking earlier, one of the only reasons you can do this for Blues fans or other people listening is that Oilers had the foresight with those 7 Hall of Famers that ended up on that same team to actually get an archive. The NHL, part of the reason the Hockey Hall of Fame was started is because the NHL did such a horrible job of keeping history of their game that the Hockey Hall of Fame was started independently of the NHL. They have nothing to do because nobody was keeping a proper archive.
Well, I'm going to tell you about the NHL, about the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm going to suggest this time around when the Ice Guardians goes
that we don't interview there.
That we don't interview at the Hockey Hall of Fame. The one thing we didn't take into consideration is that the Amtrak went by every 20 minutes. So above your head, every 20 minutes. And we were just shutting down.
But now think about that. So that's the ending of the film that we talked about already, right? With Chase was saying a little more fire, which is still one of the best endings of any of the films I've ever made. And Chase had to deal with that, and we had to deal with that with production. God damn, are we a good team? We still got that done with, every 20 minutes, Chase would be getting into it, and the passion would be going to be like, hold on a second, train, burn, because it wrecks your sound, right? So thank God it didn't happen when you were getting emotional for the ending, because that would have really sucked. If we would have been like, we lost it, there's a train, you would have
I tell everybody, when they watch the movie, they go, what did you think of the movie? And everyone's like, it was unbelievable. I said, yeah, except for the ball baby at the end. It was great. It was
3-0 Blues.
3-0 Blues.
Thomas with a deflection.
Drew, we got a clip.
Working on it.
Well,
it's a good thing we got stories while we're working on it.
I know. We're working on clips. We got stories. Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that Holly and I were talking about this too, and why the Oilers were so great is because one of the things that they had was a great player, the best player at every position. They had Gretz. I mean, yes, you backed him up with Mess and Curry and all those guys, so that was awesome. But they had Gretz, they had Furzy, and they had Koff, right?
And Semenko.
And then they had Semenko, right? So now you've got 4 integral part of the. Now you're just surrounding them with great players, which was, awesome, obviously. But I mean, honestly, like, just watching those teams, and I was an Islander fan, and then I remember Wayne telling us about how when they lost, the last time they lost to the Islanders, how they went by the locker room and watched these guys, and they weren't even celebrating. It was like they just paid such a price. They were just wrapped in ice bags and having a beer and talking to one another, and he said, was like, oh my God, we didn't pay a big enough price. That's why we didn't win.
Right.
You have to hate another great player. You're forgetting there that stay-home defenseman is Kevin Lowe.
Lowe,
like
again,
said literally every position. That's why it was really important for us in this series was to do the great ones, right, and not just focus on the 2, because great teams win, and you saw that once Wayne left, he never won again, right? The Oilers won again in '90. And then you could argue that it was the New York Oilers that won again in 94 because they brought a whole bunch of Mess, Lowe, Graves,
Anderson,
Book-a-Boom. They're all back
Mac
there,
T.
right? Mac T, Teak was there. Like, you brought a lot of them back again, right?
Yep.
So, and then they joke that because Sather traded them all there, that they were like, thanks for hooking us back up in New York, right? So we really want to tell that story. And it's been, for me as a hockey fan, so amazing to go through this and get to interview. And even we're interviewing the trainers and the people that were behind that were there for years. Like,
you could even put Teak in there as a great one, as a agitator. Like, he could do it all. But the problem is you couldn't get an interview with him because
you speak in
Teakanese.
there is no language.
Teakanese.
So there's no translator to help you understand.
So I got a funny story, and I've been swearing, so we're good to swear on this, right?
Right.
So we're interviewing
Fuck
Teak,
yeah.
and he was, I fucking love it. That's and he is like explosive, kind of like your interviews. There's not a lot of guys, like a lot of them. It's one of the downfalls of hockey is we're a little too complimentary of everybody else. Teak with his accent, he's so funny. We talked to him like, who did you love to shut down the most or fuck with when you were, once you like left the Oilers? And he's like, oh, my favorite player to fuck was Wayne Gretzky. And he like it. We're like, no, you're missing a word there, Teak. That's like, so we got him to get it right because we never do that. But he said it, and then he's like, oh, okay, I'll get it. And then he goes, fuck on was Wayne. And we're like, no, that's not right either. We got to get it back. And it was like, fuck with. And he's like, fuck with? Okay. But yeah, going through his stats, and we're like, and he had to shut down Lemieux, and he had to dude, phenomenal.
Because he was one of the smartest players I ever played with.
Oh, and so by the end, the hugs, this has been such a joy going through that. And we got a whole bunch of them back together at Yanni's where they used to all go eat, right? And there's Semenko photos all over. He's had his jerseys there. He was the one that got them all to come there, and they'd go eat there. And then we got them when Teakin was in town. We got McTavish, Lowe, Anderson, and him all together like Boys on the Bus did, right? Kind of because our inspiration was is when The Last Dance came out recently.
Right.
We were like, oh my God, what an amazing series. And my producing partner, Shane Fennessy, who's Kevin Lowe's son, was like, Adam, I need to do this for my dad. We need to do the Great One series.
That's
need
awesome.
to. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's going to be hard, and we're going to put together pieces. We got to get Wayne. And then, it's good having the youth in there. He's a bit younger than me. And he's like, Adam, you're the one that always says, let's not sell against ourselves. Let's go forward.
Yeah, he'll love to talk about that more than anyone.
Well, and he'll ultimately do it for the players, right? And
absolutely.
Everybody else is like, yes, thank you for finally not forgetting about Lumley and Hunter and these other guys that were there at the start, right? That helped build that team into the dynasty.
Yaroslav Pozar.
Yeah, that's funny. Listen, we're going to take another break. We're in intermission. Blues lead the Hawks 3-0. We're at the Window World Studios here, presented by Siteman Cancer Center. And we're going to come back with some more stories with our good friend Adam Scorgie. Let's take a break.
Score big at Hippos Dispensaries with locations in Chesterfield, Columbia, and Springfield. Daily deals that keep your wallet in the game, top cannabis brands you know and trust, and bud tenders who feel like teammates. Hippos, your home rink for cannabis in Missouri.
We're coming to you from Window World Studios, Hully. And you know these guys, they're all about windows.
That's right, Chaser. Windows World of St. Louis doesn't just put in windows. They take care of people. Best service in the business, hands down.
And they'll do whatever it takes to make customers happy. And that's why fans around here trust Window World for their homes.
So if you need new windows, go with the teams that's willing to go the extra mile. Window World of St. Louis.
Window World of St. Louis. Best in town, buddy.
Absolutely. Now it's time for our Get Checked moment of the game. And today, we're talking about breast cancer. And if you're a gentleman watching, please tell your wives, girlfriends, friends, daughters, sisters, aunts, and even your mother-in-law. Gals watching, listen closely to this. If you're 40 or older and haven't yet gotten your mammogram, it is so important that you do. Women who undergo regular yearly screening for breast cancer have better outcomes than women who don't. If you have family history of breast cancer, there is a chance you will need to start getting screened even earlier. And that's something to talk to your primary care physician about. Siteman Cancer Centers offer a mobile mammography van that parks at convenient places like Schnucks and Walmart all over town, so you can get screened on your way to run errands. Check out the van schedule and make an appointment on Siteman's website, siteman.washu.edu, or type in your zip code at getscreenednow.com. If you're in Missouri or Illinois, to find multiple locations near you to get screened.
Well, welcome back to Ice Guardians. Our good friend Adam Scorgie is joining us. We're here in the Window World Studios, presented by Siteman Cancer Center. And Adam, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because we now have a 3-0 hockey game, the St. Louis Blues leading the Chicago Blackhawks, and one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was, you mentioned all these players, but you did do a great series with Grant Fuhr, and he's one of the most likable gentlemen that we've ever played with in the sport, and he's got a unique story as well.
Oh, Fuhr's fantastic. I mean, to know that he was one of the only, he was the first black player put into the NHL Hall of Fame, and people forget, you guys got to, Brett, you got to play with him out here, but people remember his time in Edmonton, but he had one of the most phenomenal seasons as a goalie here in St. Louis.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
He played 77 games. We were saying, though, the unfortunate part is he'd had surgery like the year before, and they thought his career was like he was going to be done, and then he came back from surgery and broke the all-time games record, and
we didn't go to the Stanley Cup Finals because he was hurt.
Yeah. That's we interviewed. That's one of my favorite parts. I guess we interviewed Prongs about that too, right? Because that's the Kyprios incident, right?
Yep.
And Kyprios actually cried and got pretty upset because, of course, he was trying to fall and agitate Furzy because he was playing so good, and you guys had a great team that year. You guys probably would have won, but he never meant to hurt him like he did, right? You try to fall on goals, you try to agitate him, and
Did you say Kipper cried about it?
yeah, he got really emotional. He did not. That's why he agreed to do the interview, because he's like, yes, of course, I was trying to stir things up. I was trying to follow the goalie. I was trying to, he never wanted to hurt Fuhr that way, right? And you guys both know Furzy. He takes it so in stride. Furzy's just like, yeah, did they fall on goalies? Did he mean to hurt me? No. Was he trying to get under my skin? Like, Furzy forgave him instantly. Like, that's just like,
yeah. Well, Grant had the ultimate talent to be a great goalie, and it was his give a shit meter was 0. Like, oh, they scored. That's okay. They won't score again.
How come you played
like,
36 holes of golf the night before the playoff game?
Then he won.
Because it got dark. I couldn't play 45.
Yeah. He's so...
Oh, yeah.
Furzy, yeah, I think you nailed it, though, Holly. That's the thing that, doing the research on that everybody said was his ultimate skill that so many other goaltenders don't have, is his ability to shake it off. Because a lot of people, I'd say a lot of people, the dumb people online will say, well, your goals against average and stuff isn't that great. And he's like, I never cared. He truly didn't. He's like, I didn't care about that stat. The only stat I cared about was winning.
Yeah.
And check how many cups I won, right? That's what I cared about.
So we won 10-8.
Yeah.
We won.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Gretz always says about him. He says, listen, if it was 7-7 and there's 3 minutes left, we were winning. He was done.
Yeah.
He was shutting the door. It was over. And I mean I remember coming in. One of the greatest stories that I tell about Grant Fuhr is the playoff game when he come in the room and said, basically, boys, I let in a bad one. I'm sorry. And he didn't even speak. Like, he didn't speak. And he come in the room, he said, listen up. And we're like, oh, my God, he talks. And then he goes, boys, listen up. I let in a bad one. This thing's on me. You win this game and get us to Game 7. I don't lose Game 7s. This in Game 6, this guy ends up pulling off a 1-0 win. Was it double or triple overtime in Phoenix in Game 7?
And you're
gone.
Like,
huh?
I was gone.
Oh, you went.
Dallas.
That's right. You got traded that year.
We played
our signed
next.
Yeah. I mean, he was unbelievable the way he played in that game. And we were just like, are you shitting me? Like, I mean, it was the greatest goaltending display I've ever seen in my life. And he just told us in Game 6, don't worry, I don't lose Game 7s. And he didn't.
His ability from all the people we interviewed and you watch the tapes too, honestly brush it under the rug and focus on the next one to make sure the team could win was arguably the best it's ever been in the NHL for that. Because a lot of goalies are great and they have great stats, but you see them freak out and get mad. His ability to say you won't get the next one is uncanny. And as you guys have all said, like, could be that one of the nicest guys that's ever played too. Like,
there's a lot of cool masks in the NHL, but his Edmonton mask early was
iconic.
Sick.
Yeah, it was funny because we got him to put it on for some shots and some B-roll, and I was kind of like, "Oh, Grant, do you feel bad? Like, put the mask." He's like, "No, I love this thing. It's so comfortable the way that he's like, I'd be happy to wear it." And I was like, "Okay, well, we're not trying to cover your face. It just looks badass, right? Like, wear it." No, it's going through this with you guys is so awesome because even me, I'm so caught up in the hustle of trying to do the next one and honor the next story that even just kind of walking through what I've been able to do as a hockey fan and be able to share these stories. And, you know, I don't know, did you ever see the premiere that I will give the Oilers put on an amazing, so we did it in half the arena where they section it off, and we kind of guided them through this because I said, look, if we had 3,000 to 5,000 people in a full arena, it would look empty, right? And you want appearances. So they moved that giant screen in the new arena and they sectioned it off and they put these huge curtains from floor to ceiling, and they got 3 of his iconic outfits put together from the Hall of Fame. Gretz was there and Kevin Lowe and Simmer, and they did this huge presentation. 3,000 people came to watch that, which we've put it out there to be challenged, I think, as a record in Canada. That's the largest documentary viewing in one spot. 3,000 people to come watch your doc. This is the first one Shane and I produced together. And I actually pulled him aside and hugged him because we're looking up at this huge screen and this audience. And I said, take note, because this doesn't happen every day. Right. You don't get to tell your idol stories with 3,000 people watching in front of this sold-out building. And since then, and he always jokes, he's like, well, Adam, you kind of lied because we've been on this wild ride and been telling all these great stories since. He's like, I don't know, it really hasn't kind of ended. And I was like, I meant the 3,000 people in the arena. I don't know if that's going to happen again. Pretty spectacular.
Well, he's a special guy, and certainly telling his story. I mean, that was a wild bunch too, you know.
Well,
and then he got suspended by the league. He kind of took a little bit of a beating for everybody. Never said a word.
He did. Well, when we first started, I said, Grant, you know, any good doc has to have conflict and resolution. We have to go. We can't tell your doc and not talk about the suspension. We have to go. He's like, yep, no problem. He's like, I've already lived through it, so I know the end result, so I have no problem. Nothing's off the table. I'll talk about everything. And he even talked about how his first marriage didn't work out because he's really married to the game, right? He said that's, you know, honestly, like that's why looking back, I wasn't a good husband because you almost have to be. If you want to win, it's you got to want to win more than anything. So he had no problem talking about it. He just said, I'm not talking about anybody else because this is my story. And we're like, absolutely. We don't want to be that kind of storyteller anyway. And what was fascinating to learn, though, is going into it is how he got suspended because he admitted it himself and put himself into rehab, right? Which was crazy. And the league was looking at a lifetime ban for him trying to do that, which you look now at least the league's corrected itself. It tries to help people if they're writing it and shit. But the fact that they were going to try to give him a lifetime ban because he's like, in his words, like, I was already coming out the other end, but I did that to go through the program to get better and get back to winning. And he's like, and the fact that he was facing a lifetime ban is so silly that, you know, luckily that didn't actually happen.
Exactly.
And he got back is that the league would have had a major tarnish had they done that to such an ambassador for their sport, right? And it's funny because Grant Fuhr is one of those guys that even if there's hockey fans that don't really watch hockey in the States, Grant Fuhr is one of those guys because the mask and the flair that he did with the hands. And like people are like, oh, I used to emulate him. I couldn't tell you anything other than hockey about him and Wayne Gretzky, but they know Grant, right? Like, because he did that. Because he was it either left or right hand? They didn't even make gloves. He had to use he had to make
baseball
his own.
mitt.
Yeah, because they didn't have it for his hand back then, right? Righty. Yeah, that, you know, and he'd skip school and play hockey all day, but. Something else that we were just talking about this in the car ride home that we're learning going back to the dynasty era when they created the Oilers of how much guys love the game. And I want to ask you guys, like, now that it's gone so corporate and contracts have gone so big, sometimes it feels like maybe there's players that don't love it as much as you guys did when they played. Because we asked Grant this question, which blew my mind when we were filming Making Coco. After he'd won the Vezina and 3 Stanley Cups, he's making $100,000 a year. And we listed 5 goalies that were making $400,000, and I've never heard of any of these 5 goalies. Like, not even like, I was like, I don't recognize any of these guys. And his answer was it didn't make the film, but it was so beautiful. We're like, Grant, what did you think? Like, these guys were making, he was like, but I got to play in the greatest team in the world.
Yeah.
He's like, I would have done it for free. He's like the fact I was getting paid was a bonus.
Well, 100,000 up in Canada, it was basically free.
Yeah, yeah, with your dad. Like.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember the year.
Well, what year would that have been after 3 cups?
So it would have been, because they won their last one in 90, right? So it would have been like around 88, right? Because they lost in 89 with the Steve
Because
Smith,
my first contract I signed in 86 was 70, 105, 115. So but I hadn't won 3 cups yet.
Yeah. Well, and that was we got to interview Peter Pocklington for the Great Ones recently. What a fascinating, as much as some people could say he's a crook and this and that, like if he didn't wheel and deal the way he did, you wouldn't have been able to keep that team together for as long as he did. He said it pretty beautifully, and, it's sad he's getting old. He's got glaucoma. He can't see now very well, and he was like, look, I was a very hands-on owner, and I spent years building these guys up. He called it. He said when he brought the team there, we'll win a cup in 5 years. Everybody thought he was crazy. And then he built these players. Like he still calls them young boys, right? Because he's like, we built these young men, these young boys up to believe that they were the greatest hockey players in the world. And rightfully so, after they'd won a few times, they're like, well, pay us like we are. Yeah. And then he's like, well, we can't afford it, right? Yeah. He's like, I didn't want to make ticket prices astronomical like many of the arenas are getting now. And he's like, TV deals were only $1 million. He's like, I wasn't left a lot of options, right? So I unfortunately had to move Wayne. And looking back on that, like, of course, as an Oilers fan, someone that's living in Edmonton, that was devastating. But for the league, going to the Kings was probably the best thing that could have happened to the league, right? To grow. Yep. Now, did you know this, Brett Chaser? Did you guys know? So we found that actually they were really close to going to Detroit. Detroit offered more money, but it was Wayne's father said, Gordie Howe's their idol there, right? Detroit's already established market. Go to L.A. so you can grow the game.
Wow.
Don't go to Detroit.
And then think about that. Then he went to L.A. and then it was Tampa and
San Jose,
Anaheim,
even Florida. A bit more. We're finding
Florida,
out here. They went on a tour.
Dallas.
They went on a tour in Dallas, and they went on a tour in Florida where they brought all the great ones down there. They went and did all these signings, and they did these skates and stuff. And shortly after that, within a decade, was when those teams were brought there. That's where really going into the history of what the Oilers did, that dynasty team, the great ones, they really changed the face of hockey forever.
Sure
right?
did.
They were the first ones to be on cereal boxes, and like we're pulling up these old, again, because Edmonton's a blue-collar town that like the city lives and breathes by them. Some of these old commercials and footage we're finding in cup parades, we're like, oh my God, are they incredible?
Yeah.
Like they are. We were laughing. I'll show you some.
What was Wayne's cereal? Pro Stars.
Yeah, Pro Stars. Yeah. Well, you remember that commercial with him, and it was actually a Bo Jackson commercial, and it was like, Bo knows this sport, Bo knows this sport. But then they were like, Bo knows hockey, and that was one where he falls down, and Wayne's like, no, not this sport.
Bo don't know hockey.
He might be able to do all those running sports or anything with a bat or a racket, but he can't skate. That's a different game.
Bo don't know hockey.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Do we have a highlight here? Because we do have.
Well, Chicago's.
Hully's got the Car Shield breakdown. Robbie Thomas making it 3-0. Car Shield. Remember, protection that keeps the game on the road. Listen, we got a little breakdown of a play here. Hully, why don't you tell us what happens in this one?
Well, it's pretty simple. D to D, and it doesn't always have to be a big shot. Thomas goes into a perfect spot. Great hand-eye coordination. Takes it out of the air, and the poor goalie has no chance. He thinks he's reaching up to grab a little fluffy wrist shot, and there's the deflection right under his glove and in the net. That's what great goal scorers do. They go to the right spots.
I was going to say, everyone used to talk about your shot, but
the shot was a big part of it because it's not a missile. So he got time to get there and get his stick
but
on
I think people, the one thing that they don't understand is just how many you got from that area right there, redirecting pucks. And I remember you saying it earlier. Well, we were talking with one of the referees, and you said, hey, one thing about it was, if I'm laying in the crease, it's because somebody's cross-checked me pretty hard.
Exactly.
I'm trying to redirect the puck. So
Yeah, I'm out here to score goals, and I'm not scoring goals falling down.
Yeah.
So if I'm on the ground, someone put me on the ground.
Right. Let's take a short break here. We're going to get in a little bit of action that tells why we can pay our bills. Welcome back into Window World Studios, presented by Siteman Cancer Center, our friends that are taking care of all your oncology needs and do so much for the city and for the surrounding area. What a night. We're here with our guest, Adam Scorgie, Brett Hall, Kelly Chase, joining you as the Blues are leading the Chicago Blackhawks 4-0. And again, if there's ever a team I can't say that I have any problem beating the hell out of, it's the Chicago Blackhawks. Them and Detroit, I have no problem with either of that.
It's tough.
So
It's
here we are back inside, and Adam, one of the questions that we were just kind of discussing a little bit about, guys, the tough guys a little bit. And I know eventually we're going to get a highlight of Milan Lucic, but big tough customer, played a little in Edmonton, played in Calgary, Boston, won a cup. If you think about what's coming back in the game, he's been out. He's had some personal issues, and St. Louis needs a guy like that. And so you see a guy like that coming back in the game after taking a bit of time off, and you know that the game's evolving back a little bit.
I think every team wants a guy like Lucic, and I'm rooting for him. I don't know how well you guys know Luch, but I got to meet him when Dave Semenko passed away. I did a screening in Edmonton for his charity, and just did it and invited we invited a few of the Oilers, and Lucic was the only one that showed up, right? And best compliment he could have said is after the film, he's like, it was his first time seeing. He's like, well, why the hell am I not in here? He's like, I should have been part of this. I was like, I didn't have your number, but I'm rooting for him. I know he had, I think he's sober now, which is great.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for him. He was an absolute gentleman that night to my daughter and everything, like most of the tough guys are, appreciates his role. And I think every team, I mean, we were kind of talking about this off air. If you look at the Panthers that have been dominant these last 2 years, they are a tough team as a group. Like, they don't have, the game's evolved, so you don't have the Kelly Chases and Tony Twists anymore, which I wish you had, but the team toughness and bullying that Florida brings, like, other teams can't handle them because they're not afraid.
Yeah, they just come after you.
They come after you.
One line after another line after another, and I agree with you. And I've been outspoken about this from forever. Those are my favorite players, and Milan Lucic is one of them. And I sure hope he sticks around and has a great comeback year. And I was just saying, while you guys were talking earlier, last segment, I was kind of peeking up at the TV, and it's 3-0, maybe 4-0 at that time, and one of the Blackhawks decided he was going to start doing some face washes and little jabs, and all of a sudden, Luch kind of comes around and just looks at the kid, and he wouldn't make eye contact. And then the face-off happened, and he had to line up next to him, and they had him right there in the camera, and the kid was like, yeah,
that's more than I want to chew.
He won't look at him.
Yeah.
He won't look at him. He wouldn't. He's like, okay, yeah, okay. And he ended up taking a tripping penalty just so he could get off the ice.
Let's go to the Hippos High Point. Hippos, of course, are cannabis CBD sponsor. And again, let's go to Lucic's first goal as a St. Louis Blue. That's 2 points in, I think, 3 games for Luch. And I think he just gets a piece of that just going to the net.
But he goes right to where he should go.
Again, just gets in front of the goaltender, goes off the pants. And listen to me, not how, but how many. Just a quick shot from the point
right
again. It's Luch in the pants, goes off the post, goes in. Congratulations to Milan Lucic, who's got his.
And it really doesn't matter. I remember my first year in Calgary, I watched Joe Nieuwendyk get 4 goals in Buffalo, and he didn't shoot one in.
Really?
Yeah. He
And
was
he
one
scored
of
50
he was
that
one of
year.
the greatest deflectors ever from playing lacrosse. up in the Newmarket
Oh,
area,
yeah.
I believe. And then the one went off his ass, and I mean, it was. There's a guy that had a knack for scoring goals.
Him, Gary Roberts, and I'm Adam Oates. All those guys played in that league up there,
The
right?
Evans brothers.
Evans brothers, same sort of thing.
We played with Dougie here.
Shanny.
Yeah. No way.
Shanny played lacrosse, was an unreal lacrosse player.
Really?
Unreal. Yeah.
didn't know that.
His brothers were mean playing. His brothers played professional lacrosse, and his brothers were mean son of a bitches.
Wow.
Yeah, that there's no there's some toughness in that Irish family, I'll tell you that. But glad to see Luch
No,
get
I'm-
on
I'm
the board
rooting for-
right away.
I'm rooting for. I mean, look, you saw again. I can go back to the Oilers because I know like Evander Kane, right, had a nice comeback there, played great, added that swagger and that grit that they needed. And I'm concerned this year. I mean, they got Frederick, who I think will hopefully add a bit of that. But it's
Trent.
you, the longer the playoff run goes, the more you need guys like that are going to get.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but Kelly and I are good friends with Bobby, his dad, here in
really?
St.
Yeah.
Louis.
Yeah, he's a
He's
St. Louis guy.
kid.
Oh no, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he's a St. Louis guy. Played for Jeff Brown,
Okay.
and all those first round picks that played on that team. I mean, you had Brown and Clayton Keller. You had Frederick. You had Cunnin. You had Kachuk.
Maroon.
Well, no, he
No?
wasn't
Big
on
rig.
that team. But you had Matthew and Brady, and then you had a couple kids drafted. Luke Martin drafted. Wool, it's the goalie in Toronto, all on the same team in St. Louis. So I remember one summer, Brownie had a Russian team. He had a Team Russia, a Team Canada. He had a Team USA and a Team St. Louis, and just had his team. And he had Chikrin's son was the kid out of town. I think maybe Bellows' kid played on the development program. It might have been in town too. Oh, no, it was George McPhee's son and Chikrin were the only two guys that weren't St. Louis kids that played on that team, and St. Louis won the tournament.
That's awesome.
It's an unbelievable group of kids.
I'll tell you another guy that I'm rooting for is Jonathan Taves.
Yeah,
Making a
that
comeback.
No kidding.
that's
I just saw something on Instagram today, and I'm kind of dumbfounded why I can't remember, but it's a veteran, and they're skating and getting ready for the season to start, and he looked at the guys in the dressing room, and he's like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? This guy hasn't played in 2 years. I am so glad he is on our team, and he is going to make a huge difference for the Winnipeg Jets.
I think
I'll
so,
tell you
too.
that.
Oh, that's awesome. What was he? He had long COVID? Is that what?
No, he had long COVID.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
But didn't he also have like an allergy to the equipment too?
No, that
Like
was
both
Hossa.
of them.
That was Hossa.
Well, but that was a long time ago for Hossa. But yeah, he had long COVID.
Long COVID, yeah. So, yeah. Knock on wood, haven't gotten it, or if I did, it was mild enough I didn't realize I had it. But I was in Sweden when the world was shut down.
I was in Cabo.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I
Nice.
beat you.
Yeah, we were filming. We were doing Dolph Lundgren's doc, so we're out in Sweden. But Sweden stayed open, right? So it was weird. My wife, right when we got there, my wife calls me bawling because they shut down schools again. She doesn't know she's going to manage the kids, and I'm in Sweden filming, and I'm trying to be empathetic, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, babe, that sucks." And she's like, well, "What are you guys doing?" And I was like, "We're about to go to a karaoke bar," and she's like, "What? How
Bad
can you go?"
answer. That
It's
is
the only thing open for food.
That is a bad answer.
Yeah, lie.
We're
at that
locked
point.
in a
Yeah,
room.
lie.
Honey, I'm locked in my room. I can't even leave. And it's super dark in Sweden.
Yeah, no, it was, and she was like, "How? Everything's closed. The whole world's closed." I'm like, "Yeah, not here in Sweden. It's Sweden never shut down."
No, they didn't. I'll tell you, Chaser and I went to Nashville
Yeah.
during COVID, and except for the airport, we never had to wear a mask anywhere.
No.
The bars, everything. It was restaurants,
when we went to Sweden, because we all showed up coming from Canada, we're here. We all had our M95s on, and like everyone's looking at us like, "Whoa, those guys take it seriously, right?" And when we're there, we're like, "Hey, don't you guys have to wear a mask?" They're like, "No, they recommend it, but it's not." And I'm like, "Didn't you guys shut down?" They're like, "Yeah, no bar can stay open past midnight. It's horrible." And I was like, "Well, that's not really shutting down." And I was like, "What about schools and everything?" And they're like, "No." And they built these big tents for the COVID run, and they had to shut them all down
because there's no one
because they
there.
got herd immunity early. What they did is they did the method which actually if you read, which is what a lot of virologists suggested, but nobody paid attention, is they said, protect the most vulnerable. Keep them locked down, but let everybody else get herd immunity quick, because then you won't have as many variants, right? When you try to vaccinate during a pandemic, it causes more variants.
Yes.
I'm waiting for you to do a documentary.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's one I know many people said did, because there's so much corruption that got
Oh
involved.
my God.
We were traveling. We were filming another film, and this is when I just objectively, without knowing science, just saw that this is so politically driven, because we were going through the states and it was easier to drive at the time, because flying, there was all this like, you have to get this test to come in and this test to land, and it was thousands. So we're like, we could drive, and each state treated it so differently. If you're in a very liberal state, caution tape around playgrounds, not even allowed outside. If you were in a conservative state, it was wide open, nothing. And then Vegas was the one for me. I was like, this is such bullshit. So we go to Vegas, which I'd call like a purple state, because it kind of flops back and forth.
Yeah.
The casinos were 50% open, right? Like they made a negotiation in the middle. I was like, 50% open? How does that fucking work, right? Like, it was like the buffets and the nightclubs weren't open, but the pubs and the gambling, of course, the gambling, the essential service, that stayed open. And that's why I was just like, this is so politically driven. It's bullshit. And funny story with Brett, the director. So Brett's from BC. Hearing a lot of the news there, it's very, very liberal, and he was very concerned with him, and he did have a young daughter that was born super preemie later on that was very vulnerable to it. But he was like, we go to Vegas, and the rest of the team's like kid in a candy store. Canada's been locked down like crazy, right? Like, you can't even like walk your dog and shit like that. It was nuts. Vegas, we're like, oh my God, casinos are open, strip clubs are open. Like, we're gonna go. I don't know how those are essential service, but they were open. So we go out, and Brett sends that group. He really doesn't. I'm like, man, I can get us a suite in the Mandalay Bay for $120 Canadian, right? Like $100 US. I'm like, let's treat ourselves all to the Mandalay Bay. We'll have suites. We'll go and have fun. And Brett's like, I'd rather get an Airbnb away. I don't want to get COVID. Like, let's. And I was like, man, I looked, and Airbnbs were way more expensive. I was like, man, it's actually cheaper. So for production purposes, we're gonna get suites. So Brett didn't want to go out. He texted everyone. He's like, guys, I know it's tempting, but could we all just order room service and stay in our rooms? And of course, the crew just didn't reply, because we were already out at the bars. So we're enjoying things. And then we get to New York, and we're getting all our tests like, negative. And then Brett comes over. He's like, where are you guys seeing the negative on yours? I can't find it. And his says positive, right?
No way.
Now, it ended up being a false positive, thank God. But we were kind of secretly, we're like, well, that's what you get for staying in your room and not going to the strip club and having fun, right? we got herd immunity because we went out.
Well, it's funny is, I took the shots because I had to go to Canada.
Yeah, I had to travel too.
And I wanted to go watch, Ben was playing up there at the time, and I wanted to go up. But that donkey running that country, well, it was such a crock of shit, the whole way it was presented to everybody. And I mean, I'm a proud Canadian. I was so pissed off. And then the thing I think about this all the time. Like, people talk about how could they, how many people were just dying to just sell their neighbor out?
Oh, it was.
Oh, this guy was out, and you're like, these fucking guys. Hey, Mike, they're telling this guy was out, doing whatever. This guy was at ran into the grocery store. Oh, we reported this guy.
And the government was asking him to.
And the government was saying, hey, we'd like you to report you. Yeah. You're like, what the hell is going on up there?
It got crazy. And actually, it was interesting before more stuff came out. It reminded me a lot of the same scare tactics that were used for drug propaganda that we had researched when we were doing the Culturae and the Union, right? Is that rat on your neighbor? That's how a lot of policing fell apart in North America, Canada, and the United States.
Yeah, but just think about this before you even get, like, it's the mentality of a person is what I'm getting to. Like, you know that it's wrong to do it. Or like, you got to believe, but somebody's told you, so let's report our neighbor. Let's say where these folks are hiding. Let's say that this guy, let's do this. Let's make sure we punish that person because they did it. I'm doing mine. Look at me, how good I am.
Doing my part. No, it was crazy to me to see how that. And a friend of mine he's a cop in Edmonton, and he was saying when it first came in, he was saying it was like a class 1 offense when somebody was out in public without their mask. And I was like, well, what does that mean exactly? He's like, put on the same playing field as violent crimes.
Oh, God.
Jeez.
I was like, are you what? And he's like, oh, we really quickly ignored it, right? Like, because we were like, we've got 500 calls today because somebody's out here. Like, this is so stupid. You honestly want me, like, we just had a break and enter, and you want me to go get someone that doesn't have a mask where there could be a potential death. So the cops push back.
Well, that's
at
what
least
I'm
the cops I knew said that they pushed back right away when they're like, this is ridiculous. We are not classifying that as a class 1. It is super silly. But it was interesting to see how it pit people against each other in a way, like you said, like you can hearken it back to like, how could have people ever done that during the war and stuff? And you saw it with a virus. A sinisterly clever way to get people against each other, right?
Yeah.
That's what you just saw was so political, and it was so just how the side, like it just, the filmmaker in me was like, oh my God, like bells were going up. I was producing other things, but I wanted to dive deep in that and constantly looked at the hypocrisy of like, you know, even what my daughter had to go through to play hockey, you know, she had to get the shot as a minor, even though there was like under 25 kids in all of Canada that died of COVID, right? And they all had underlying issues. It was not, they died with COVID, not from COVID.
Yeah.
And my daughter was forced to. And my daughter she got Guillain-Barré when she was given the HPV vax at school, right? So she lost all function for like 2 weeks and her face drooped and everything. So we were very hesitant to get any vaccine that wasn't like necessary. And that one is like, why HPV? That's a sexually transmitted disease. Like she doesn't really need to be getting that at 12, I don't think, right? Like kind of young to, but they said this thing, well, we never forced you. And I was like, okay, her dream has been to play in the NCAA since she was 12 years old, and you could not get on a hockey rink unless you'd gotten a PVR, a PCR test. Or it would be impossible with try. Like, there's no way. So I'm like, yes, you are forcing her to get something she doesn't need.
Right.
You're trying to handcuff it like, well, she doesn't have to play hockey. I'm like, just she's only played it for 3/4 of her known life to try to make her dream come true. Right. Yes, like, let's take that away from her, right? That is not forcing her. I hate that statement. It pisses me off as a parent because I was in Spain and I had to call. My wife was crying. My daughter's crying. She's like, Dad, I have to play and I'm scared because what if I get Guillain-Barré again? What if I have a weird autoimmune disease and my legs don't work again for 2 weeks or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, kiddo. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're not going to let you.
But I do want to take a break and tell you about a great company. I'm going to talk about my buddies at Window World a little bit, and I have a personal, I think a personal story. I just redid a house. My wife and I just renovated a new place, and we decided we're putting windows in the entire house. I called down the Blues. I said, hey, who's the best company to work with that you guys that spend money with the Blues? So I want to make sure I use the team that our team that respects the Blues. And so they said, oh, easy, hands down, Window World. So I go to Window World. I tell them who I am. I said, hey, do you mind coming by and checking and you know, on this house? They come by, and what they did for me personally was unbelievable because of I assume because of my health stuff and everything. But the guys came by and said, hey, you know, just to let you know, we're going to take care of this ourselves because our ownership and we've all decided that you've given so much to the community and we don't know anyone other than Mr. Buck, Jack Buck, that has given more to the community, and which is not a true statement, but it made me emotional, and it's about what St. Louis is about. And you want to talk about community and what St. Louis and the state of Missouri is about. The reason we have 50 alumni here is because companies like that take care of us. So I want to have a big shout out live to the folks at Window World for everything they've done for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
So we got a 4-0 score. We've got 2 minutes and 20 seconds left with Adam Scorgie, and then we're going to go in and enjoy the watch party for the rest of the evening. But Adam, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. And
telling your story.
Telling your story. And you got a great production coming up. It's going to be a series. Why don't you just hit that one more time? And
Anybody out there who hasn't seen the docs, you got to watch them. They're fantastic.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's truly an honor to, as a young boy growing up, falling in love with the sport, with the enforcers, Parker and Fedorik, and then bringing me down there to be able to share the inaugural interview with you two guys is like, to me, I'm honored.
I called you and you're like, no, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I go, no, where are you going to be? I know, can we do it another time? No, we don't need to do it another time. I'm in. I'm honored.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I'm so grateful that you did.
No, I wouldn't miss it, Chaser, for you and for you first and foremost, and get to sit here with Holly. It's awesome. And yeah, if you guys want to check out my films, they're all pretty much on Amazon or iTunes, or the platforms you can find them. Most people use Amazon nowadays. They had their Netflix runs. Ice Guardians was actually the last thing I got on Netflix. They haven't bought anything from me since then. That's my last one. And then, yeah, The Great Ones is in production right now. 2 will be coming out here in the new year. We're doing a big premiere.
That's going to be a good one.
Smashville.
Are you going to do one in Nashville?
Huge one. Nashville's going to announce it here pretty soon, but it's the Smashville premiere is coming in November. They're doing a huge thing for Jordan, as they should.
Do you know where they're doing it?
They're doing it at Bridgestone.
Oh, they are?
At the arena, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's going to be special. Jordan and the family's going to be down there. I'll be down there. And then the platforms take a little longer. It's going to release after that. It's an incredible film. His story is absolutely incredible. If you don't know who Jordan Tutu is, like, wow, like it will be up there with, it should be in the top 10 for Hockey Docs too, because he's an incredible story and one that ends in a very positive way, right, as a role model for not just Indigenous communities, but anyone that's been through a hardship and come back, to our boy Lucic, hopefully same thing, right? Jordan's had a great career since then. And then The Great Ones, we're in production, and we're going to find time to sit down with Holly on that, because he's one of the great ones too. He wasn't on that team, but we're going to, we got to have him in there. So my team, actually, I ditched them. They're in Detroit today filming with Iserman and Steve Smith, but I would not miss this. So thank you guys for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate it. And as we wrap up this game,
we're wrapping up our inaugural podcast.
Big thanks to the founding partner, Siteman's Cancer Center. And we're here from live from the Window World Studios. And Adam, it's been such a pleasure, and thank you again. I mean, you made it great, man. And a guy that can tell stories, we're going to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't even got to the Rogan stuff.
Oh, no. Damn, you mean I have to come back to St. Louis and hang out with you guys?
Yeah.
Nobody even knows you were a boxing champion either.
No, we didn't get into boxing. We didn't get into any of that stuff, any of the fighting.
I want to know more about the
strippers.
strippers.
With the Hell's Angel and the stripper. We can get into that next time.
Yeah, maybe we'll bring a couple of them on and have some stories.
I got to tell you, we've been to a lot of strip clubs. I never ran into a Hell's Angels
I just waited outside for you.
Yeah.
I just waited outside for you. But anyway, thanks for coming on, guys.
Oh, my pleasure.
Have a good night, folks. Thank you for joining us on Ice Guardians.
Thank you.
Hope you dug it.